From pain to power, unleashing the healing magic of creative expression. Welcome, brave souls, to a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about healing, resilience, and the extraordinary power we all possess to transform our darkest moments into beacons of hope. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into the heart of human experience, guided by the wisdom of an incredible woman whose story will leave you breathless, inspired, and maybe even a little bit in awe of the human spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to have your minds blown and your hearts opened by the insights of Sherri Jackson. Sherri isn't just a survivor, she's a thriver, a beacon of hope, and quite frankly, a superhero in disguise. After facing the unimaginable loss of not one, but two children, Sherri didn't just survive. She found a way to turn her pain into a force for good that's rippling out across the world. Her journey of healing through writing and singing has inspired countless others to find their own path to recovery, proving that even in our darkest hours, we have the power to create light. Now, I know what you're thinking. Great, another feel-good story about overcoming adversity, pass the tissues, but hold on to your seats because this isn't your average tale of triumph. This is a deep dive into the science of healing, the power of creative expression, and the revolutionary idea that our pain, yes, that thing we've been trying to numb, avoid, or outrun, might just be the key to unlocking our greatest potential. Imagine for a moment that you're standing at the edge of a vast dark chasm. This chasm represents your pain, your trauma, your deepest fears. Now, conventional wisdom might tell you to turn around, to run as far away from that chasm as possible. But what if, just what if the only way forward was through? What if at the bottom of that chasm lay the seeds of your own transformation? This, my friends, is the journey Sherri embarked upon. And let me tell you, it's a journey that challenges everything we think we know about healing. Now, I can almost hear the skeptics among you. Sure, writing a few poems or singing a song might make you feel better, but can it really heal deep trauma? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into some mind-blowing science that suggests that, yes, it absolutely can. Let's talk about Dr. James Pennebaker for a moment. This guy isn't just any researcher. He's the Sherlock Holmes of the psychology world. And he's been on a decades-long quest to understand the healing power of writing. What he's discovered is nothing short of revolutionary. In study after study, Pennebaker found that people who wrote about their traumatic experiences for just 15, 20 minutes a day, over 4 days, showed significant improvements in both physical and mental health. We're talking reduced doctor visits, improved immune function, and better psychological well-being. And these weren't just short-term effects. These improvements lasted for months and even years after the writing exercises. But here's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't just any kind of writing that produced these effects. It was expressive writing, the kind where you pour your heart out onto the page. No holds barred, no filter, no worries about grammar or spelling or whether your fifth grade English teacher would approve. Now, I can see some of you shifting uncomfortably in your seats. But I'm not a writer, you might be thinking. I can barely string 2 sentences together without autocorrect. Here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to be Shakespeare to benefit from this. In fact, the less you worry about creating a masterpiece, the more powerful the healing effect can be. Think of it like this. Your trauma, your pain, it's like a tangled ball of yarn inside you. Each time you sit down to write, you're gently tugging at a thread, slowly but surely unraveling the knot. It's not always pretty. Sometimes it's downright messy. But with each word you write, you're creating order out of chaos, making sense out of the senseless. But writing is just one piece of the puzzle. Sherri found her healing not just in writing, but in singing what she wrote. And this, my friends, is where the magic really happens. You see, when we combine different forms of creative expression, we're engaging multiple parts of our brain. We're not just thinking about our experiences. We're feeling them. We're giving them rhythm and melody. We're breathing life into them. It's like we're taking that ball of tangled yarn and weaving it into a beautiful tapestry. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's all well and good for Sherri, but my pain is different. My trauma is too big, too overwhelming. I hear you. And I want you to hear this. There is no pain too big for healing. There is no trauma too overwhelming for transformation. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah lost her husband in a car accident just 3 months after their wedding. For years, she felt like she was drowning in her grief. She couldn't talk about it, couldn't even think about it without feeling like she was being torn apart. Then, one day, almost by accident, she picked up a paintbrush. She didn't have a plan, didn't even really know how to paint. But as she started to move the brush across the canvas, something shifted. The colors became her words, the strokes her sentences. She painted her pain, her love, her loss, and in doing so, she began to heal. Sarah's story isn't unique. Time and time again, we see people using creative expression to navigate their way through the darkest of times. And here's the really beautiful part. When we share these expressions, when we have the courage to show our messy, beautiful, painful creations to the world, we create ripples of healing that extend far beyond ourselves. This brings us to another crucial point: the power of shared stories. When Sherri began to share her writing and her songs, she wasn't just healing herself, she was creating a space for others to begin their own healing journeys. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone else's story and thought, me too, I thought I was the only one? There's immense power in that moment of recognition, that realization that we're not alone in our pain. But here's where it gets really interesting. When we share our stories of healing, we're not just creating connection, we're literally rewiring our brains and the brains of those who hear our stories. Let's get a little nerdy for a moment. There's this thing called mirror neurons. These little guys fire in our brains, not just when we perform an action, but when we see someone else perform that action. It's why you might wince when you see someone stub their toe, or why you might find yourself tearing up at a sad movie. Now, here's the cool part: these mirror neurons don't just work for physical actions. They also fire when we hear or read about someone else's experiences. So when Sherri shares her story of healing, when she describes how she found her way through the darkness, our brains are literally mirroring that experience. In other words, by sharing our stories of healing, we're not just inspiring others, we're actually giving their brains a roadmap for their own healing journey. How's that for mind blowing? But let's be real for a moment. Sharing our stories, especially stories of pain and trauma, isn't easy. It requires vulnerability, courage, and a willingness to be seen in our most raw and authentic state. So, why should we do it? Why should we open ourselves up in this way? The answer lies in a simple yet profound truth that Sherri's story illustrates so beautifully. Hurt people, but people, heal people. When we heal ourselves and share that healing journey with others, we become agents of change. We create a positive cycle of healing and growth that can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. This is particularly crucial for Black professionals and entrepreneurs in a world that often places additional burdens and stressors on our shoulders. The ability to heal and to share that healing becomes not just a personal journey, but a revolutionary act. It's a way of reclaiming our narratives, of turning our pain into power, and of lifting up our entire community in the process. Think about it. How many times have you felt like you had to hide your struggles to put on a brave face even when you were falling apart inside? How many times have you felt like showing vulnerability would be seen as weakness? Now imagine a world where we could bring our whole selves to the table, where we could talk about our struggles and our triumphs, our pain and our healing. Imagine the innovations we could create, the businesses we could build, the change we could make if we weren't expending so much energy hiding parts of ourselves. This is the world Sherri is helping to create. And it's a world we can all contribute to, one story at a time. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, that's all well and good, but I'm not ready to share my story with the world. I'm still in the middle of my mess. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's perfectly normal. Healing isn't a linear process. It's not like you wake up one day, decide to heal, and boom, you're all better. It's messy, it's complicated, and sometimes it feels like you're taking two steps forward and one step back. But here's the thing: you don't have to have it all figured out to start your healing journey. You don't have to be fixed to start creating. In fact, it's often in the midst of our messiest, most painful moments that we create our most powerful art. So, how do we start? How do we tap into this healing power of creative expression? First, we need to give ourselves permission to express our truth, no matter how messy or uncomfortable it might be. Remember, the goal isn't to create a masterpiece, it's to create a space for healing. Start small, write for 5 minutes a day about how you're feeling. Don't censor yourself. Don't worry about grammar or spelling. Just let the words flow. If writing feels daunting, explore other forms of creative expression. Maybe for you, it's painting or dancing or singing like Sherri. The medium doesn't matter as much as the act of expression itself. Find what resonates with you and make it a regular practice. And here's a little secret: it doesn't have to be good. In fact, sometimes the most healing creations are the ones that never see the light of day. The power is in the process, not the product. Now, let's talk about sharing, because while personal expression is powerful, there's something truly magical that happens when we share our stories with others. But I get it. The thought of sharing your deepest pain, your rawest emotions can be terrifying. So let's start small. Sharing doesn't mean you have to publish a book or perform on stage, although if that calls to you, go for it. Sharing could be as simple as opening up to a trusted friend, joining a support group, or anonymously sharing your writing online. The key is to take that step from private healing to shared experience. Because when we share our stories, we create space for others to share theirs. We create a ripple effect of healing that can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. Think about Sherri's journey. She didn't start out with the intention of becoming a beacon of hope for others. She was just trying to survive, to make sense of her unimaginable loss. But by having the courage to share her journey, she's inspired countless others to begin their own healing journeys. And here's the really beautiful part: when we share our stories of healing, we're not just helping others, we're deepening our own healing process. Every time we tell our story, we're reinforcing those neural pathways of resilience and recovery. We're reminding ourselves of how far we've come, of the strength we possess. Now, I want to address something that I know is on some of your minds. But what if my story isn't dramatic enough? What if my pain doesn't seem big enough to matter? Let me be very clear. There is no pain Olympics. Your story matters. Your healing matters. Whether you're dealing with the loss of a loved one, the stress of running a business, the daily microaggressions of being a Black professional in a predominantly white field, or anything in between, your experience is valid and worthy of expression. In fact, sometimes it's the stories that seem small on the surface that have the most profound impact. Because while not everyone can relate to losing a child, almost everyone can relate to feeling overwhelmed or lonely or like they're not good enough. When we share these seemingly small stories, we're shining a light on the shared human experience. We're saying, hey, you're not alone. I've been there too. And in doing so, we're creating connection, fostering empathy, and building a more compassionate world. Now, let's talk about the impact this can have on our communities, particularly for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. We live in a world that often tries to put us in boxes, that tells us we have to be strong all the time, that vulnerability is weakness. But what if we flip that script? What if we embraced our full range of emotions, our struggles and our triumphs, our pain and our joy? What if we created spaces where we could be our full, authentic selves? Imagine the businesses we could build, the innovations we could create, the change we could make if we weren't expending so much energy hiding parts of ourselves. Imagine the mentoring relationships we could foster if we were willing to share not just our successes, but our struggles. This is the power of healing through creative expression and sharing our stories. It's not just about personal healing, it's about creating a culture of healing, a community where we can all show up as our full, messy, beautiful selves. As we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge that might make you a bit uncomfortable, but that has the potential to change your life and the lives of those around you. I challenge you to start your healing journey today, right now. Pick up a pen, open a blank document, or find whatever creative outlet speaks to you. Pour your heart out. Be honest, be raw, be you. Start small if you need to. Write for 5 minutes about how you're feeling right now. Draw a picture that represents your current emotional state. Sing a song that expresses what you can't put into words. And then, when you're ready, and only when you're ready, share your creation with someone. It could be a trusted friend, a therapist, an online community. The important thing is to take that step from private expression to shared experience. Remember, your story matters, your healing matters, and by sharing your journey, you have the power to create ripples of healing that extend far beyond yourself. In the words of the great Maya Angelou, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
So I implore you, don't bear that agony alone. Let your story out. Let it breathe. Let it heal you and others. As you lead this talk today, I want you to carry with you the power of Sherri Jackson's message. Let it inspire you to look at your own experiences of loss or trauma, not as endpoints, but as potential starting points for a journey of healing and transformation. Ask yourself, what story do I need to tell? What pain am I ready to transform? How can I use my experiences to not only heal myself, but to become a source of healing for others? Remember, your story matters, your healing matters. And by embracing the power of creative expression and sharing your journey, you have the ability to create positive change that extends far beyond yourself. The world needs your story, the world needs your healing. And who knows, your journey of transformation could be the very thing that inspires someone else to begin theirs. So go forth, create, express, and heal. Your journey of transformation starts now. And as we close, I leave you with this question. What will your healing story be, and how will you use it to light the way for others? The power is in your hands. The time is now. Let your healing begin and let it ripple out to change the world. Thank you.